this is a topic that I'm so passionate about. And for me, it is a symbol. It is an analogy for the limitations of modern healthcare and where we go wrong and why so many people experience poor health. And this has been a big part of my own personal journey. So I'm just really into this topic because it's just a microcosm. It just explains the whole issue in a specific example, and it can be applied across many health issues. I'm talking especially about these chronic health issues, diseases of the modern world, diseases of our modern society, things that people live with that just drag on them for 10, 20, 30 years. They decrease quality of life. And in my opinion and what I've experienced is that it does not have to be that way. Some things, yes, we can't control everything, but so many people are being drugged down and dealing with stuff that they don't actually have to. There's some things that can be done. And for example, with something like genetics, when we just blame it on genetics and say, oh, this is because of your genes, then where can people go from there? When they hear that, they just think, oh, I was born with this. Oh, this is passed down from my parents and my ancestors. And it's not a very proactive approach. Now, don't get me wrong. There definitely are some genetic mutations that can cause disease. Common examples are Down syndrome, cystic fibrosis. So I acknowledge it. That's totally there. But there are many chronic health issues that are blamed on genes where it just doesn't make sense. Like stuff that pops up in the middle of life, or even, I'll just take one example, take autism. If you look at a growth chart for autism about like the number of cases that were seen in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and on, that growth chart looks like Amazon stock. It is like a rocket ship shooting up, straight up, like huge growth. And the basic idea with genetics is that these little mutations happen within a population, and if they're good, they start to get spread through the population. Good meaning they help the whatever organism in the population has it, they help them survive for longer, so they produce more offspring. And when they produce more offspring, those genes are spread and become a bigger part of the population. So that takes time. It takes reproduction. It takes generations of offspring passing it on and on and on for these genes, the specific gene, to grow and spread throughout a population. It can't grow at the rate of Amazon stock, at the rate that autism has grown. Just as one example, there are many. So when I see things like that, it just makes you take a step back. And you're like, this really clashes with like a basic fundamental framework for how genes work, for how passing on genes to offsprings work. And it really steps back and make you think. And my own health journey has involved a lot of what would be called more chronic health issues. Like it's stuff that arose over time. And actually some of it can be pointed back to things like lifestyle and environment. These are things that fall under what I'll call epigenetics. And don't get lost in the terms. Again, it's so powerful to have a baseline idea of these things. So epigenetics literally are things that sit on top of the genes that can affect which genes get expressed and even how they get expressed. So it's really important to understand your genes. It's not like a law book or a rule book says, these are your genes. This is exactly how things are going to go. This is exactly the health you're going to have in your life. No, it's more like your genes are like it's like a library, and your genes would be books within a library. And a library is really big, right? You're not going to read all the books in there probably an entire lifetime. So only certain books will get selected and read. And it's similar in the body. Different genes get turned on and off depending on what's going on. The body has different ways of marking certain genes for expression, or the opposite, not expressing it. Same way as if certain books got flagged and read, and other books that just stayed on the shelf that never got opened. You wouldn't know what's in there, or what's ever in there wouldn't be put to use per se. So the idea of epigenetics is like, okay, we have our genetic code, we got the books in the library, but which ones actually get selected, which ones actually get used, and how do those get expressed in the body? Now, just right here, let's take a pause. How often has that been discussed in a doctor's visit in your health situation? Have you ever considered it? Right? Because I don't think it's worth it just to go blame doctors, because I'm sure there's lots of great doctors out there that tried telling hundreds of people different lifestyle changes they could make, these epigenetic factors. And after the 100th person ignored them and came back and said, yeah, whatever, just give me the pill and make me feel better. I mean, what do you think the doctor's going to do? So I think everyone has a responsibility in this, but it definitely doesn't get talked about enough in doctors' offices. One little tangent I'll go on is I actually think big pharma, I feel, is a little bit more nefarious in this area because they're giant businesses. Their whole purpose is to make money, honestly. Like, they're public companies that report to shareholders and investors, and those investors say, well, what's the money? What's the profit? So the whole point of a big pharma company is to sell pills. If it happens to work that them selling the maximum number of pills matches you having the maximum health, great. I think what happens in a lot more cases is people are given the option, here, take this pill to manage your health issue, because that's what big pharma pushes. They push that narrative. They're very influential in the whole health space, including on the faculty and boards of medical colleges. So they influence the perception. So if you get told or you read up on a health issue or symptom you're dealing with, and you get the information that this is a genetic problem, I would really question that. First, by saying, what do the numbers look like over the past decades? Does that even make sense for how a genetic issue could increase? And number two would be to look at, are there any epigenetic factors? Let's just call them lifestyle and environment for now, to keep it simple. Are there any of those factors that are much more under your control that could be altered or experimented with to see if they can help you? Because just saying, oh, these are your genes, or like, oh, your parents had this, or oh, your grandparents had this. Yeah, you do share genes with your relatives, especially your parents. But you know what else people share with their relatives? Similar mindsets, similar diets, similar lifestyles, living in similar location or types of places, right? Now, a lot of people like to think, oh, I'm so much different than my parents or my family. They're, get on my nerves. They're weirdos. I'm different. But if you look at you compared to your family, compared to someone on the opposite side of the globe or in a completely different culture, I promise you, there's a lot more similarities. So in addition to genetic similarities, there's a ton of epigenetic similarities, and it just gets overlooked. And again, part of it, I think it's just not a profitable place to look. Part of it is maybe physicians used to look there and then, people just ignored them and want the magic pill. But either way, I think this is important to understand, because this is why I'm so passionate about this topic, is because I feel the epigenetic side represents the side of you taking your power back, you taking control of your health, you understanding that there are a number of things that are actually in your control that can make a significant difference in your health. And I feel the pendulum is way too far on the other side. This is for chronic health issues. I'm not talking about if you get in an accident and need to be stitched up and put back together. I'm not talking about if you need an organ transplant, because some things that modern medicine can do are truly incredible, and there's nowhere I'd rather be than in a modern medical facility if I needed one of those things. But for a chronic ongoing issue where there's not much more offered other than here's some medication to manage symptoms or suppress your immune system or suppress the inflammation, which is going to create other issues down the road, those situations, it can be really valuable to look at the epigenetic factors, environment and lifestyle. And this really hit me when I went through my first experience with what I'll call more chronic lifestyle illness. I got allergies out of nowhere when I was 19 years old. And for the first 5 years, when they got really bad, I'd go to the doctor, get a prescription, feel a lot better, and then I'd move on until I felt worse and would come back. And then one year, medication didn't work as well, or I was just having more severe symptoms. So I went back for another dose, and they told me, no, you can't have it. I'm like, well, why not? I'm like, well, this is a really strong drug. It's immunosuppressant and there's side effects, and you can't have any more than the dose you had for quite a while. That was complete news to me. I thought I was just going and taking like stronger version of Tylenol, right? And in that moment, number one, I realized like, okay, I actually need to do my own research. I need to ask better questions before I just down the medicine. But number two, I did a follow-up visit with a different doctor and said, hey, I got this issue. I thought I just needed to take medication each year for it, but that's some pretty gnarly medication. So what are my other options? And we went through the consult. He asked all these questions. I told him what was going on. And I'm like really waiting for the plan ahead, what can be done. And he tells me, he's like, yeah, we don't fully understand where allergies come from, why people like you get them, but a big part of it's genetic. And don't worry, you're in good company. Like 10% of the US has them. So it's like 35 million people at that point. And we've got different ways to manage it. And I kind of just went along with that explanation. I bought it and accepted it, and unfortunately followed on with the next treatments offered, which involved injections and shots, and then later a surgery. I mean, that's kind of the options that you get with chronic illness: medication to manage, and then more invasive procedures as later on down the road. And really no discussion about, well, what's the underlying cause of this? How do we heal and strengthen your body? Is there anything in your environment or anything in your lifestyle that you're doing? And I'm sure if I would have asked that doctor based on what he told me, he would have said no. But fast forward 5-7 years, I've told this story before, so I'll just briefly say I found nutrition and some holistic health, and mainly just changed my diet for 2 months, and all my symptoms went away, like completely went away. And then like 10 other good things happened: slept better, more energy, better skin, better hair. I was like, well, I didn't even know this was possible. And so that was really a wake up moment for me. It's like, wow, there's some powerful things I can do myself that have a huge effect on the health of the body. Anyway, going back to that, sitting in that doctor's office, there was something that went off in my head. It's like, this is genetic. It's like, well, I didn't have it the first 18 years of my life. Suddenly I have it now. Nobody else in my immediate family has it. Parents, siblings, nobody. So that doesn't really match up with what I know about genetics. But again, at that point, I really wasn't too involved in my own health and building my optimal wellness. I kind of just followed along and did what I was told. So that is just one story. I know so many people, so many other stories that have some kind of similarities. I work with so many clients who've experienced similar things. And like I said, at its core, to me, this is about, is the power in the hands of the person, yourself? Is your health in your hands? Or is it just a lottery ticket you got through your genes, and all you can do is have a doctor tell you what's wrong and a pharmacy make pills that mitigate the symptoms and rarely do anything to strengthen the health of your body, and a lot of times come with really nasty side effects that are definitely going to add up over years. So if you've been told, or you ever get told, that a health issue or symptom is genetic, I strongly recommend questioning that and asking things like, has a specific gene been identified? What is the rate of increase of this health issue over the previous decades? And does that align with just the general math of genetics that might be expected? But also, you're going to have to take it a step further, because these discussions don't happen in a conventional healthcare setting. Look into the epigenetic world. Look into lifestyle factors, environmental factors, things you can do. This whole podcast is about those things. So every week I'm trying to bring on a guest who's an expert and lives more in this area, because I'm all about people getting more control of their health back, more power of their health back, believing that something can be done to improve it. I'm not saying it can improve everything. I'm not trying to give that impression. Like I said at the beginning, there are true genetic mutations that do lead to diseases. So these things happen. But when it's not clear cut, when it's not known from birth or early on in life, then it can really be powerful to either question that or look at your other alternatives. When I did it, it completely shocked me, and it just gave me so much like energy and enthusiasm for life. I mean, imagine finding out that you can feel 50% better, 80% better, 100% better. You feel like Bradley Cooper from the movie Limitless, right? Like you could do no wrong. Your brain's just on point, firing. You have energy to go all day. Like that's what I felt. And it lasted for years. And that's a big reason why I'm so passionate talking about this stuff, sharing it, because I love for people to know that these possibilities are out there. Doesn't mean you have to do it. You do what's right for you. But I would have loved to have known this as early as possible in life. It makes for a much more exciting future and much better options, in my opinion, for your health moving forward. Hope this episode helps you. I'll see you next week for more episodes. Stay wise.